dedicated Kawana 9
Somebody
officer
help!
was ambushed, bound, and left to die in the sweltering
Over here.
darkness
We're
of a
trapped.
warehouse
Help.
basement. Beside her, a young rookie fought to stay conscious as the walls closed in and their air thinned. The man who did this believed no one would ever find them. That fear
The
and heat
security
would
footage
finish
was
his
wiped
crime
20
quietly.
minutes before the call came
But he
in.
didn't count on one thing. Her
That's
loyal German
impossible.
shepherd escaping into the night and finding the one police officer who would risk everything to save them. Before we begin, comment below where you're watching from. And if this story moves your heart,
The security footage
please
was
like,
wiped 20
share,
minutes before the call
and subscribe for more stories of
came in. That's
courage,
impossible.
loyalty, and hope. The city simmered beneath the heavy breath of a Denver summer night, where heat clung to the streets like a secret refused to be released. Officer Hannah Cole, 32, tall and athletic with sun-bronzed skin and determined dark eyes, stood beside her patrol SUV, pretending the humidity didn't bother her. Her black hair was tied in a strict bun, discipline shaped into a style. Beneath her uniform slept silencers of old wounds, long nights that had turned trust brittle. She was known as calm under pressure, but tonight something inside her kept glancing over its shoulder. Her partner, Ranger, shifted at her heel, 3 years old, sable-coated, all muscle and instinct sharpened by loyalty. His ears twitched at every ripple in the dark, amber eyes scanning the warehouse ahead as if it might suddenly grow teeth. Hard-working, focused, but gentle when Hannah's heart needed it. Ranger was proof that loyalty still existed, just not always in human form. Beside the SUV, Officer Megan Brooks tried to mimic Hannah's confidence. 24, small frame, freckles like constellations scattered across pale cheeks, and a wild ponytail of ginger hair constantly escaping its restraints. Her blue eyes held that hopeful glow only new cops had. The light before storms tried to snuff it out. Megan was friendly, earnest, and believed people always deserved a second chance. Hannah admired her heart, but feared it would get her hurt someday. Tonight was supposed to be dull, a report of suspicious activity at an abandoned warehouse. But the heat was a warning, air too still, cicadas too quiet. Ranger's growl thrummed through Hannah's boot like a telegraph of danger. Then footsteps, measured, confident, approached from the shadows. Lieutenant Eric Lawson emerged, broad-shouldered, hair silvered at the sides, face made for public trust and private corruption. Near 50, yet carried himself like a polished statue, a hero sculpted by news headlines and community plaques. But the eyes ruined the portrait. Cold gray, always calculating, always consuming. He wore admiration like a cloak, and Hannah once believed in him. He had taught her how to find courage in fear. But along the way, he had twisted that courage into a weapon for his gain. "Ladies," Lawson said, the perfect blend of authority and charm. "Glad you could make it." Megan smiled politely, oblivious to the stiff line in Hannah's jaw. "What's the situation, sir?" "Probably nothing. Some kids messing around," Lawson replied too quickly, too smoothly. Ranger took a step forward, nose flaring. Hannah's voice dropped into caution. "We weren't told you'd be here." Lawson smiled, tight and brittle. "Just looking out for my officers." Before Hannah could respond, 2 armed figures in black tactical gear emerged behind them. The ambush came swift, too swift. Ranger barked and lunged, but one of the men struck him, sending him sliding across hot asphalt. Hannah lurched toward him, but was slammed to the ground. Megan screamed, struggling before a gun barrel pressed to her spine forced stillness. Lawson crouched beside Hannah, and the mask slipped. "I warned you not to dig, Hannah," Some truths are too expensive. She spat blood, glaring through pain. You're a disgrace. His laugh was soft, venomous. Dignity doesn't pay. Plastic zip ties cinched Hannah's wrists behind her back, biting through skin. They forced her upright, shoving Megan against her so their backs pressed tightly. Fear radiated off Megan like heat from asphalt. Ranger groaned somewhere nearby, alive but hurt. Hannah's heart twisted. Megan whispered, voice shaking, Hannah, what is happening? Hannah inhaled through the burn in her ribs, staring down the man who once earned her respect. This isn't over, she growled. Lawson leaned close. Oh, but it is. No one will find you before the morning heat finishes the job. As they were dragged into the suffocating dark of the warehouse, Hannah clung to one truth. Ranger was free. He would run. He would bring help. And when that help came, she would make Lawson regret ever underestimating a woman who refused to break. The night that should have been ordinary had just declared war. The warehouse doors slammed shut behind Hannah and Megan, locking them inside the sweltering dark. Ranger watched from behind a rusted dumpster, one ear pinned from the blow he'd taken. His breathing came fast at first, panic, but then steadied into purpose. His amber eyes sharpened. His partner was in danger. He would not fail her. With a low, determined huff, the German shepherd sprinted into the night, paws striking the cracked pavement of Denver's industrial edge. Heat rose in waves from the asphalt, distorting the streetlights into shimmering ghosts. Ranger's muscles worked like steel cables beneath sable fur, each stride pushing him farther from the ambush and closer to salvation. A few miles away, Officer Daniel Hayes sat alone in his patrol cruiser, the faint hum of jazz leaking from the radio. Daniel, 35, was tall, with a frame that still carried the disciplined lines of a Marine. His short, dark hair was tousled from the shift's long hours, and a scar traced a thin line from his left eyebrow. An old souvenir from Afghanistan, where he'd lost a brother in arms. That memory made him protective, distrustful of authority that abused power. His hazel eyes were observant and tired, yet always searching for the next wrong to right. Tonight, he looked like a man trying to catch his breath before the world demanded something more of him. His moment of quiet ended when Ranger burst from the shadows, limping slightly but refusing to slow. The dog skidded to the cruiser's door, barking sharply, chest heaving. Daniel jumped to his feet, hand instinctively moving toward his weapon, before recognizing the Denver PD K-Armor 9 vest strapped to the dog's torso. Easy, boy, Daniel murmured, crouching down. He checked the tag. Ranger, Handler, Officer Hannah Cole. His stomach tightened. Hannah was respected, strong, capable, and never careless. If her dog was alone, something bad had happened. Ranger tugged at Daniel's sleeve, then dashed a few steps away, looking back with a sharp, urgent bark. Daniel didn't need translation. He unlocked the cruiser, opened the passenger door. All right, show me. Ranger leapt in, settling into the seat, but refusing to sit fully. Eyes laser-focused on the direction he had come from. Daniel turned off the jazz, turning on his police lights instead. The cruiser cut through Denver's shimmering heat as Ranger guided him, barking at each turn. Meanwhile, below tons of concrete and metal, Hannah and Megan struggled. The basement they'd been thrown into had once stored industrial solvents. Now it trapped humidity so thick it clung to skin like glue. Hannah pressed against Megan's back, feeling the younger woman's tremors. Megan's fear shook through both of them, but Hannah whispered, Slow breaths. We conserve strength. For a moment, Hannah allowed herself to feel the fear, then forced it aside like she'd been trained. Bodies could break later. Minds must not break now, Megan whispered. Why would Lieutenant Lawson do this? Hannah's throat tightened. Because power is easy to love, harder to lose. She shifted her wrists, ignoring the sting of the zip ties slicing deeper. She had escaped worse, but never with someone else depending on her survival too. Upstairs, Lawson paced, anger simmering beneath his polished exterior. One of his hired enforcers, Trent Barker, a bulky man with a shaved head and tattoos crawling up his neck, approached. His face was square and hardened by years in underground fight circuits where pain paid rent. "Truck's ready, boss," Trent grunted. Lawson nodded sharply. "When the fire starts, no remains. Understood?" Trent gave a cruel grin. "Ashes don't snitch." Back in the cruiser, Daniel gripped the wheel tighter. He called dispatch with a vague report. Just enough to mark his location, but not enough to alert any corrupt ears. He had learned long ago that danger sometimes wore a badge. Ranger barked loudly as the warehouse district loomed ahead. Daniel parked a block away, turning off lights. "Stay," he ordered, but Ranger shoved the door handle with practiced pause and slipped out. "Stubborn hero," Daniel muttered, grabbing his flashlight and checking his sidearm. The duo crept along the warehouse perimeter, Ranger sniffing and growling toward the rear entrance. Daniel spotted fresh tire marks and muddy boot prints near a side door. Something inside him sharpened. The instinct that kept him alive overseas. He pressed his hand to the door. It clicked open. Unlocked. Too confident. Too sure no one would come. Daniel moved quietly, scanning. Ranger halted, ears perked at a faint echo, muffled cries below. Hannah. Daniel's heart clenched. He descended a stairwell, flashlight cutting through gloom. The basement door was padlocked. Ranger snarled beside him. Daniel didn't hesitate. 3 swift hits with his boot, and the lock snapped. The door flew open. Light flooded into darkness. Hannah blinked against the sudden glare, Megan gasping beside her. Ranger rushed past Daniel, whimpering and licking at Hannah's cheek. Relief rippled through her chest like a heartbeat finally freed. Daniel holstered his weapon and knelt, cutting their restraints. "Officer Cole, Officer Brooks," he said, voice level but rushed. "We're getting out of here." Hannah staggered up, fury replacing fatigue. "Lawson, he's upstairs!" But the roar of engines interrupted her. Tires squealed outside. The criminals were leaving, likely to return with worse. Daniel steadied Hannah by the arm, his gaze fierce. "We move. Now." Hannah met his eyes, hazel and burning, and something unspoken passed between them. Gratitude, surprise, a spark that felt terrifyingly alive. Megan leaned on Hannah, still shaking but breathing hope again. Ranger pressed against Hannah's thigh, protective and ready. They weren't safe yet, but they were no longer alone. And for the first time since the night turned nightmare, survival felt possible. Their escape had begun. The summer night pressed against Denver like a suffocating blanket as Hannah, Megan, Daniel, and Ranger slipped away from the warehouse. The scent of gasoline lingered in the air, Lawson's insurance plan to erase them with fire. Their footsteps were hushed but hurried, every breath a countdown. Daniel guided them through a maze of shipping containers and dark alleys, one hand beneath Megan's elbow as she limped, shock and dehydration making her legs unstable. Ranger moved ahead, stopping every few feet to check the air, his protective focus unbreakable. They reached the cruiser, parked in shadows. Daniel opened the back door, helping Megan in first. Hannah followed, but paused, scanning the darkness. Her knuckles whitened. Fear was not weakness. Fear was the body screaming for survival. But Hannah had long mastered the art of acting, despite it. Daniel noticed the tension in her shoulders. "We'll make it," he said quietly, conviction in his voice like steel plating. His reassurance was a strange comfort, unexpected, yet steadying. She nodded, just once, then got in beside Megan. Ranger leaped into the passenger seat, tail thumping once, anxious but hopeful. Daniel slid behind the wheel and started the engine. The cruiser glided away, its silent urgency matching the heartbeat of 3 fugitives who should have been the law, and now were prey. They needed help, but Hannah knew Lawson had reach. He could twist narratives, turn heroes into villains with a single call. They needed someone outside his circle. Daniel's mind raced through contacts, and one name surfaced: Sergeant Olivia Reyes. Mid-30s, half Puerto Rican, half Irish, she possessed a striking look. Sharp cheekbones, warm amber skin, and dark curls pulled tight in a practical bun. Her brown eyes, however, were the thing people remembered. Eyes that saw too much and forgot nothing. She had risen through vice, unafraid to challenge corruption, which made her both respected and inconvenient. Daniel trusted her because she had saved his life once. During a raid gone wrong, she dragged him behind cover while bullets sparked against concrete inches from his skull. Since then, they had shared a quiet loyalty. Daniel grabbed his phone and called Reyes. She answered on the first ring, voice low and alert, as if she never truly slept. "Hayes? You alive or planning to ruin someone else's night?" Her sarcasm couldn't hide concern. "I need you," Daniel said, urgency threading through each word. "This is big. K-9 handler, Officer Hannah Cole. Lieutenant Lawson set her up. We barely got out." Silence, thick and dangerous, held the line. Reyes finally replied, "Meet at the South Platte underpass. 5 minutes. And Daniel, don't trust anyone you don't personally vouch for." The call ended. No small talk. Just survival. But Lawson wasn't done. At the warehouse, Riley Pike, a lean man with a hawk-like face and a cobra's patience, surveyed the scene. Pike wore faded tactical gear and a constant scowl. Early 40s, with hair buzzed to the scalp and a jagged scar across his jaw, earned in a brawl during his mercenary days. Pike thrived on control and hated when prey escaped. He was Lawson's preferred hound, obedient, ruthless, and impossible to shake once he caught a trail. When Lawson barked orders, Pike nodded once. He understood the job. Hunt, silence, erase. "They won't get far," Pike growled, already moving. His cruelty wasn't loud. It was efficient. Back in the cruiser, Megan stirred, rubbing wrists still raw from restraints. "I don't want to die," she whispered. Hannah took her hand, squeezing firmly. "You won't. We're getting through this. You hear me?" Megan nodded, tears clinging to her lashes, but not falling. Ranger placed his paw gently on Megan's knee, grounding her with silent loyalty. Daniel took them beneath the South Platte River Bridge, a structure that vibrated when heavy trucks passed overhead. Reyes was already there, leaning against a matte black Jeep. She wore plain clothes, a fitted dark jacket over a tank top, jeans tucked into worn boots. She looked like someone who could fight her way out of an earthquake. "Get out," she ordered, scanning each face. Her gaze lingered on Hannah's injuries and Megan's trembling. Her tone softened just a fraction. "You two hold on." Ranger inspected Reyes with a protective growl, but she crouched slowly, palm out. "Hey, handsome. You keeping everyone alive?" Ranger sniffed her fingers, then relaxed. Judgment delivered. Hannah watched that exchange. It told her Reyes could be trusted. Daniel briefed quickly, concise as a strike. Reyes's expression darkened. "Lawson has friends in high places. If he wants you disappeared, the city will help him." Her jaw clenched. "But he's sloppy tonight. He thinks his badge is still a shield." She opened her Jeep, pulling out trauma gear and water bottles, tending to Megan's wrists and Hannah's cut lip with gentle precision that contrasted with her fierce demeanor. Then a sound. Engines. Multiple. Echoing along the riverbank like thunder with intent. Pike's voice boomed from a loudspeaker, distorted and cruel. "Come on out, officers. Let's make this painless." The floodlights from black SUVs ignited the darkness. Reyes hissed. "He brought a whole crew." Daniel, "We move?" Reyes, "We fight smart." Hannah, despite exhaustion, felt fire return to her veins. She looked at Daniel, his scar catching the bridge's faint light, and found courage mirrored back at her. Megan inhaled shakily, gripping Ranger's harness. Pike shouted again, closing in. But Hannah smiled, lips split but defiant. "They think we're prey. Let's show them we're not." The hunt was no longer one-sided, and survival now had teeth. The roar of engines rolled beneath the South Platte River Bridge like a beast awakening. The high-beam lights from the approaching SUVs carved sharp white veins across concrete pillars, illuminating dust in the humid night air. Hannah Cole steadied Megan against the steel support column, her own muscles trembling, but her expression carved from defiance. Ranger pressed himself protectively against their legs, hackles raised, amber eyes glowing with instinctive vigilance. Sergeant Olivia Reyes stood firm, hand hovering near the firearm holstered against her hip. A silent storm lived in her spine. She did not fear violence. She despised injustice that required it. Her jaw tightened as she assessed the scene. "We stay tight," she hissed. "Move only on my call." Officer Daniel Hayes crouched low near the hood of his cruiser, scanning the direction of the approaching gunman. His mind parsed the battlefield like an old habit. The scar above his brow pulsed as if remembering why he hated losing people. He spared a glance toward Hannah. Her dark eyes met his, a shared certainty passing between them. They would not be hunted down like animals. Pike's amplified voice sliced the darkness again. "Come on out! Don't make me drag you out like trash." His tone was almost bored, which made it more frightening. Hannah reached for Daniel's arm. Her voice was low, steady. "He's playing with us. That means we still have control." Daniel nodded once. He'd already read the same conclusion. Suddenly, a gunshot cracked through the night. A bullet sparked against the steel pillar inches above Megan's head. She flinched, breath shattering into a gasp. Ranger lunged, barking with fury at the threat. Reyes grabbed Megan's arm, pulling her deeper into cover. "They want us scared," Reyes said sharply, "so we don't give them that satisfaction." More SUVs stopped. Doors slammed. Boots thundered onto gravel. Pike stepped into the harsh floodlights, a hunter silhouetted. His shaved head gleamed with sweat, and his scarred jaw clenched with anticipation. His dark tactical vest was strapped tight across a wiry yet powerful frame. He lifted a hand, signaling two enforcers to fan out along the bank. Behind him was another figure, Mason Crude, late 20s, thick black beard shaved into sharp lines, tattoos crawling up his arms like ivy. A cruel grin carved his face. Mason was known in Denver's underground as someone who enjoyed hurting people a little too much. Violence wasn't just business. It was appetite. His eyes locked on Hannah, as if already imagining her bruises. Daniel's voice was a whisper sharpened by urgency. They'll try to flank. If they get behind us. Reyes didn't wait for the conclusion. We move. Daniel, with me. Hannah, help Megan. Ranger guards the rear. Hannah almost protested. Her instincts wanted to fight, not flee. But the weight of Megan leaning on her reminded her survival sometimes required retreat. She supported Megan's waist, leading her toward the darker shadows under the bridge. Ranger stayed pinned at their side, ears swiveling like radar. Pike spotted movement and smirked. There they are, he muttered, signaling Mason. Let's put them down easy. Gunfire erupted, short, sharp bursts bouncing from pillar to pillar. Daniel and Reyes fired back with precision, forcing Pike's crew into momentary cover. Reyes moved like a dancer forged in war, fluid, tactical grace. Daniel matched her, stance solid, firing only when he knew it would matter. Hannah ducked low, shielding Megan's body with her own. She felt the sting of concrete shrapnel graze her cheek as bullets chipped at the pillar near her head. Ranger barked viciously, teeth bared. He pushed forward, but Hannah caught his harness. With me, she whispered. We stay alive. Reyes clicked her radio, once, twice. No response. She cursed under her breath. They're jamming comms. Lawson has tech support. Daniel's jaw tensed. We need a diversion. Reyes scanned the underpass and spotted the abandoned construction supply piles, propane tanks, old wooden pallets, a generator left gathering grime. Daniel, help me get to that generator. An explosion will buy time. Daniel didn't hesitate. Hannah, when this blows, you run. Head north along the river. Stay low. Hannah held his gaze. Too many emotions crashed inside her. Fear, gratitude, a dangerous flicker of something softer. Don't get killed, she whispered. He flashed a half smile, more vow than humor. Not tonight. Gunfire intensified as Pike realized his prey might slip away. Reyes sprinted toward the generator, Daniel covering her movements. They worked fast, hoses reconnected, wires exposed. Reyes struck a spark. The ignition caught with a roar and a plume of flame. Down! Daniel yelled. The blast hit like thunder, awakening the earth. Light swallowed darkness as the pallets and tanks erupted in a rolling fireball. Shockwaves rippled under the bridge, knocking Pike's men to the ground. Ranger yelped at the noise but stayed firmly by Hannah and Megan, ever the shield. Reyes surged back, coughing through smoke. Now! Go! Hannah hauled Megan up the bank, Ranger clearing the path ahead with fierce barks. Daniel and Reyes moved behind them, firing controlled bursts to keep Pike suppressed. Up above, city lights sparkled indifferently, unaware of the war being waged beneath the bridge. The air pulsed with smoke, sweat, and adrenaline. They were outnumbered, outarmed, but not outwilled. As the flames behind them painted the river orange, Hannah felt the spark of determination burn hotter. She wasn't just running anymore. She was fighting her way to justice, and justice had finally begun to chase back. They escaped the trap, but the hunt wasn't over. It had only evolved. They didn't stop running, until the explosion behind them shrank into distant thunder and the bridge became a fading silhouette swallowed by the Denver night. The humid air clung to their lungs like glue as they pushed deeper into the riverside brush. Ranger led the way, ears high, paws slicing through tall summer grass, his form a moving promise that they were not alone in this darkness. Hannah Cole tightened her grip around Megan's waist, feeling the younger officer's trembling weight. Sweat rolled down Hannah's cheek, mixing with the dried blood there, but her voice stayed calm when she whispered, "Almost safe." She lied, though not out of fear. She lied to keep Megan alive. Ahead, Daniel Hayes paused near a chain-link fence. His chest rose and fell quickly beneath his tactical shirt, muscles tight with vigilance. His sharp features looked carved from moonlight, cheekbones precise, jaw square, and dirt smudged his forehead where he'd wiped sweat blindly during the firefight. His eyes scanned the surroundings with controlled panic, haunted by the memory of losing people he once swore to protect. Tonight, he refused to let history repeat. Beside him, Sergeant Olivia Reyes dialed furiously on her phone. Her fingers moved with frustration and calculation. Still, no signal. She muttered a harsh Spanish curse under her breath, a quick spark of fire in an otherwise composed storm. Then her gaze softened as she looked at Megan. "We need cover, now!" They squeezed through a gap beneath the fence and emerged onto an uneven alley lined with shuttered auto shops. Neon from a 24-hour mural supply store flickered like a dying heartbeat. Daniel pointed to a side door half hidden by peeling posters and dust. There. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of leftover tires, oil, and a faint hint of spray paint. A rattling fan spun lazily overhead, barely cutting through the heat. Hannah lowered Megan onto a workbench. Ranger pressed his head into Megan's shaking hands, his soft whine telling her she was still needed. Daniel secured the entrance with a heavy wrench slid between door handles. Reyes dragged over a stack of crates to reinforce the blockade. For a moment, they allowed themselves silence, only the fan clicking as it struggled against the night. Hannah sat back, chest hurting from physical exhaustion and a deeper ache below the surface. She glanced toward Daniel, who was checking his radio for interference again. The glow from his device lit the scar above his brow, a line of past battles, and she saw in him not just a rescuer, but a man who had chosen them when he could have walked away. "You saved us," she said quietly. Daniel looked up, startled by the softness in her voice. "You would have done the same." She smiled, a ragged curve tugging her bruised lip. "You don't know me." He held her gaze with unwavering certainty. "I didn't need to. I could see it in how you fought for her." He nodded, toward Megan. Those words landed somewhere vulnerable inside Hannah. She wasn't used to being seen like that. Loyalty was currency she spent carefully, too many counterfeits in her past. Reyes broke the quiet by opening a dusty first aid kit. "We patch up, we think, then we kill Lawson's fun." Her tone was iron, but when she wrapped Megan's bleeding wrists with saline and gauze, she murmured gentle reassurances, each touch reflecting a deeper loyalty to justice. That's when the workbench creaked and a startled voice yelped from behind it. Daniel spun with his gun raised. Reyes followed suit. Hannah shielded Megan instinctively. A head popped up, shaggy blonde hair, wide brown eyes behind round glasses. A skinny young man in a grease-stained mechanic's jumpsuit froze like a deer in headlights. "Whoa! Whoa! Please don't shoot! I'm unarmed! I'm just Benny!" He held up both hands, one clutching a half-eaten donut that sprinkled sugar down his front. Benny Harper, 26, worked nights fixing motorcycles and sometimes sleeping in the shop when life outside felt too loud. He was lanky, pale from fluorescent light life, with a baby face that failed to match the heavy exhaustion resting under his eyes. "I swear I didn't see anything. I was just eating my break donut." Daniel lowered the gun slightly. "Relax. We're cops." Benny blinked. "Then why are you looking like fugitives in a B-action movie?" Reyes answered flatly, "Because the villain is wearing our badge." Benny swallowed hard. Then something hardened in his expression, a quiet resolve not often awakened in him. "So, you need a place to hide? Maybe I didn't see anything. Maybe I don't like bullies." Hannah nodded. "We'll be gone before dawn." "No rush," Benny said, surprising himself. "I think the security cameras here haven't worked in years." He grinned nervously. They accepted his truce. As Reyes stitched a cut above Daniel's elbow, Ranger rested his head on Hannah's knee. Hannah stroked him absently, staring at the dusty concrete floor, her heart steadying. There was fear, but there was also fire reshaping into purpose. Daniel watched her. For the first time since the ambush, she looked almost peaceful. He stepped closer, voice quieter. "We'll take Lawson down. Together." A warmth sparked in her chest at the word together. It scared her more than the bullets had. Above them, trucks rumbled along the overpass. The city continued breathing, restless, unaware. But beneath that noise, 4 officers and 1 loyal dog had made a silent promise. The hunted would become the hunters, and justice would not be the only thing taking shape in the dark. It's incredible how one moment of courage, one act of loyalty, and one heartbeat of hope can change the entire course of a life. Hannah, Daniel, Megan, and Ranger were thrown into darkness, betrayed, hunted, nearly erased. Yet in the very place where fear tried to break them, God placed a path forward, a roof to hide beneath, a stranger willing to help, a loyal dog refusing to give up, a love beginning to bloom from wounds not yet healed. That's what miracles look like. Not thunder splitting the sky or angels descending with trumpets, but the right person arriving at the exact moment when all seems lost. Just like in this story, God sends people into our lives. A friend who listens, a stranger who cares, a loved one who refuses to leave. Sometimes he even sends a hero in fur and paws, leading us back to safety. If you are walking through a storm right now, if you feel betrayed, forgotten, or cornered, remember this: God is already on his way. Help is coming. Healing is coming. Light is coming. And when the night finally breaks into morning, you will look back and realize you were never fighting alone. So please, if this story touched your heart, share it with someone who might need hope today. Leave a comment below with one word: Amen, so others can see faith still lives here. And don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss these reminders that courage, loyalty, and love are still alive in our world. May God bless you. May He guard your steps in every dark valley. May He surround you with protectors, human and canine, just when you need them most. And may He give you the strength of Hannah, the bravery of Daniel, the resilience of Megan, and the loyal heart of Ranger. Because even in the hottest summer night, a miracle is already running toward you. Amen.